Nowstalgia Pod coming at you here, breaking down Survivor season 41 finale that aired last night. Dave, we tuned back into Survivor last season for the All Stars, or I guess it was 2 years ago now. It feels I said last season, I was like, yeah, last year. No, that was quite a while ago. Obviously
Yeah.
impacted by COVID, but the All Star season was great. We had Tony just running the game, cementing himself as one of the Mount Rushmore players of Survivor ever. Survivor 41 came back. Not quite post COVID. We're not quite post COVID as the numbers would indicate, but during the pandemic, and in a different structure, there were some changes for this season. And I guess I just wanted to ask you first off, like, did you like the changes in season 41 of Survivor? Did you feel like it worked?
I do feel like it worked. The new era, Survivor 41. I liked the season overall. I didn't like every change. I didn't like every twist. I don't think anyone liked everything, but still pretty compelling. I think a big part of that is there was a lot of memorable characters, a lot of good casting done on this. I think there's a lot of people you can easily see popping back up down the line once a all-star season happens again, once they get a few more of these brand new seasons under their belt. A lot of memorable characters here that didn't win. And yeah, so I was satisfied with it. I was watching the Ponderosa videos on YouTube as well. I was quite entertained just because I feel like core Survivor is still really good and really fun, and to think about, to process, to put yourself in the shoes of who you're watching, all that's still great. And I think some of the twists help that, some of them less so, but overall still had a good time.
Yeah, I agree. I think the beginning of the season felt a little too chaotic. There were just a little too many different things going on. They introduced the last chance, where if you thought you were definitely going to be voted out, instead of casting a vote, you roll a die and
Oh
things
yeah,
like
the
that.
shot in the dark.
Yeah, that's what it is. The shot in the dark. Thanks. And then they had all these like excursions where people were going and meeting
Mm.
up, and there was just like a lot of things. They were kind of giving like people at home hints, and Jeff Probst was talking to the camera a couple times this season. I was like, I don't know if all of that worked for me, but I do like how they started like doing things like splitting up um, tribal, and having like a group of five vote someone off and another group of five vote someone else off. I feel like that really shook up things. There was one twist I want to get to, but just overall, I just want to say I thought the season was great, and the gameplay has consistently impressed me. The players in this season, I think we both have gone back and watched some older seasons. The gameplay is just so advanced from where
Yeah,
it used to be.
Survivor IQ.
Yeah, and it plays out so nicely in the final tribal for this season, where you had people who, there was certainly some bad blood, or maybe not respecting all the players' games there, and it seems like one player in particular was not liked by a lot of the cast, but everybody pretty much just acknowledged that the gameplay was high. Everybody, even though they didn't like it, like everybody else on the show, I think was impressed with how it played out. So I thought that was really nice. So Dave, the twist I want to start with is Erica, who, if you're watching this and you don't know who won, Erica won, and I hope I didn't spoil it for you. You should not watch the season wrap up breakdown if you don't know yet.
No,
But Erica,
no sympathy.
right, Erica won last night, and her game really flipped on her being sent to exile and choosing to flip the game. She had to break this thing, and so all the people who had won immunity all of a sudden didn't have immunity,
Right.
and they were going to vote her out, and now she had immunity with everybody else. And how did you feel about that twist of the game? Because that felt very engineered to me.
Yeah, absolutely. And that was our only appearance of an exile island of any kind, which I don't mind at all.
Mm-hmm.
I think you don't always have to have something like that. But yeah, I mean, how was Jeff talking about that? Like the most power anyone's ever had in the game, or
Yep.
however they were talking about it. And I didn't think it was much of a choice on Erica's part, because she was
No.
guaranteeing herself immunity with one choice and doing the opposite by not, let alone the fact that she also viewed herself as someone perhaps to be voted out anyway. So it was not much of a choice, but who gets voted out when this twist happens was Sydney, the last person out pre-merge, who I think also is a pretty memorable pre-merge character. Would like to see her come back in a future season. Sydney was pretty displeased in real life about this, and I think this came out a little bit on the show, but they didn't really show us too much of people talking about it. But like, you get immunity, and then you take it back like that, like they won the immunity challenge, and then Erica gets to do this thing to take it away. Like that I don't know if it's like a bridge too far. Like I'm not like offended by it, but it's definitely like breaking some new ground with that kind of twist.
Yeah, and I think the thing about it was it didn't necessarily feel like Erica did anything to earn the twist necessarily. You know,
Mm.
it's not like she
Oh,
won a
right.
challenge. It's
She
not like
wasn't picked, right? That's how it happened.
yeah, what it was they they had to send somebody, and
They
it was
kept
between
Nasir.
her and Nasir, and they did like rock paper scissors, and she lost
No,
in their
but
eyes.
didn't Danny say that they lied about rock paper scissors and they just straight up picked Nasir?
Oh yeah, that might have actually been
Yeah,
right. I don't remember, but um, the fact that she didn't do anything necessarily to get it, like even if she had volunteered, if she was like, I'm gonna go to exile, you all can go and enjoy whatever, I would have been like, okay, she did something to earn this twist, or at least earn some sort of reward there. This was just her, being on the bottom, and they're like, well, we're gonna give the person on the bottom power to totally change this game, and that felt a little too engineered to me, I think. And I don't blame Sydney for feeling frustrated by it, but it certainly worked out for Erica, where she then kind of took this flip of the game and really realigned herself with certain people who were able to protect her. And she, I think, did exactly what a lot of the Survivor winners of late, outside of the All Star season, have really done, which is like, I guess Wendell also was pretty powerful throughout the game, but um, kind of like play this like under the radar type role where she's still running some votes, but just never really seeming like a threat in any sort of sense. But she won 2 immunity challenges. Like I said, she was running some votes, and I think Jeff summed it up really well in the post final vote breakdown or discussion that they had. This is kind of her MO in real life, is that she's, in a position of power in her profession, but people always underestimate her because of what she looks like, being a small Asian woman. And
right.
she knew how to be in power, but not necessarily at the forefront. Unlike Ricard, who I think is probably one of the standouts of the season, but everybody knew he was a target going down the stretch. Same with Shan. So when you're a flashy player now, people recognize it. The game
Yeah,
IQ comes back into play.
yeah. It's kind of wild, right? As Shan, obviously the star of the first half of the season before she gets taken out, but I was rooting for her to get taken out in that fashion because it was just smart decision making by the
Mhm.
players to just eliminate someone who's in first place at that time. In a sense, you could argue that Deshaun, Liana, Danny, well, Danny and Deshaun kind of ruined their chance of running the game a little bit more by blowing up their alliance early. But still, I feel like taking out the best players is what you should try and do, and it's hard, right? Like the days of an Aussie being a challenge beast and getting to
Mhm.
the final, like that's just impossible now. If you're a challenge beast, as soon as you don't win a challenge, you're gone, and that's what made uh, Ricard not getting voted out a few weeks back so ballsy because it was like, wow, this is the guy who would win right now if the game ended, and you're not voting him out. And Xander's, talk about the shield and stuff, but that might have been what actually ruined Xander's case because he never tried to make that big move and tried to just protect himself all the way through, even though he had been on the bottom for so long. Um, but it's funny that there's so many other twists and new things going on with Survivor 41. You had the beware advantages where there's a negative aspect to them. You had the do or die thing with Deshaun, with like the Monty Hall problem, which I really did not like at all. I was very happy that Deshaun won the do or die because to just get eliminated trade up by chance without being voted out is pretty stupid to me. Like, why would
Yeah,
you eliminate a vote in any circumstance? I feel like that's just not a better than having a vote.
Yeah, that the thing I think I really love about the game is that it has all these different aspects, but it really comes down to the social game of how you're voting people out, how you're going about it, and to yeah take away a vote by just like you said, the Monty Hall problem didn't really sit well with me, and I agree. I'm glad that he didn't get voted out because of that. How did you feel about the aspect of working together to activate immunities and rewards? Like Xander, for example, had an immunity through pretty much like the middle half of the game to the end because him, Nasir, and I'm
Brad.
forgetting Brad all had to say a line at a
Yes.
reward challenge or a immunity challenge, and then it was activated, and they all did it, but they all defined their own part of the idol and bring it together in that sense. Did you like that?
Yeah, kind of cool. I felt like the phrases were just awfully noticeable, though. I know there's a
Yeah.
lot more than what we see with the edit and stuff. They're at the challenge platform a lot longer before they start it. There's more explanation, so maybe it doesn't stand out quite as much. But the phrases were so out there, so like AstroTurf. How's AstroTurf coming up
Right.
on Fiji?
Yeah.
Um,
Freed's looking like broccoli.
yeah, but kind of cool. I liked I think the extra vote advantage is interesting. I think the ability to not have a vote
Mhm.
while the idol isn't activated is also interesting.
Yeah.
I think those have potential for more because there's a lot less chance with them. And in the case of like the idol, yeah, I mean, there's some chance taking a chance that the other tribes do their part of this too. But I think that's a calculated risk versus just Deshaun picking, out of a hat to decide if he's even alive anymore.
Yeah. No, I agree. Um, they did try to work in some like viewer aspect, like I mentioned. Jeff was talking to the camera a lot this season, letting you know, like, oh, this is going to be hidden here. Let's see if Xander finds it when he sneaks
Yeah.
out, which was really frustrating. He didn't freaking find that. That was very
Yeah.
upsetting to
Tough
me.
because he was looking around too. They made a point of him like leaning around and bending
Yeah.
over and stuff.
Did you like the viewer aspect of playing along?
See, I don't mind it. I don't care about it, but I don't think Jeff like added anything to it because a lot of times he would explain things that we could just determine on our own by watching what's to follow.
Mm-hmm.
Like there was no like clue revealed. So I don't mind breaking the fourth wall, but I just think maybe there needs to be, I don't even know what it would be honestly, but there needs to be a something else you're communicating that actually would like be seen as a benefit. I think pointing out the advantage not bad. I mean, in the past, we would just have the camera pointing out for us. It's
Mm-hmm.
kind of the same thing, but if you want to talk it out, I don't care. I guess.
Yeah. Um, yeah, I didn't mind it. I think the viewer aspect I liked the most was actually in the finale when they gave the word scramble to the people at home. Like I
Mm.
actually paused my TV to like see if I could unscramble it myself and figure out the
Oh,
phrase,
nice.
which I thought was fun. I hope they do things like that, like maybe working in ways to like play along with the puzzles or something along that line. I'm not sure.
Right.
Um, so I think there's some possibilities. And I like that they're trying things with it. And it also seems like the 26-day aspects
Yeah.
of it moving along had people really on their feet and just like wanting to make moves quickly, which I think is a good change. Maybe not 26 days, maybe like 30 or something like that in the future if you take some of these changes out. But I do think some of the changes really worked.
Yeah. I know a lot of old school players aren't a big fan of the 26 days just because it's inherently less surviving. And even
Mm-hmm.
if they're not getting the portion of rice automatically each day, it's still just inherently less time. They're there like a week less than past survivors. And, that's a huge amount of time to not keep losing weight and keep having mental gymnastics going on in your head to motivate yourself to keep playing.
Yeah.
So I understand why they did it. It was really just COVID based because they had to factor in quarantining and stuff for the cast as well as the extensive production crew. On the other hand, you'd think like the constant that CBS has with Fiji now for Survivor would be able to accommodate this. Maybe it's a cost thing that they just don't want to be there any longer due to money. I'm not really sure, but I guess it's not the worst thing. I do like seeing the surviving come out in a bit. Like another twist, right? The final five. go to a brand new beach with limited supplies. But we don't see them do jack shit at this beach except look for the dancing trees advantage for the final immunity challenge. Like, we don't see any of the challenge that is going to this new beach because the show just is really uninterested in showing anything like that at this point.
Yeah. No, that's a good point. And I think maybe the survival aspect of it has become less of it, and it's a little bit more about the like social
Yeah.
manipulation and gameplay. But yeah, that definitely is a twist that or a change to the show that I hadn't really thought too much about. I think because I usually am just more fascinated in the politics of it all. Um, who are your favorite people from this season? I mean, if you go by Instagram, like you mentioned, Shan is by far the biggest winner of this season. I don't know how many she had before. She's like over 122,000 followers on
Oh
Instagram.
shit,
She's gained a
that's more than I
huge
thought.
following.
Yeah.
Ricard's only at like a couple thousand, which I was surprised at because he also seemed like a fan favorite, especially in the last couple episodes. But who stood out to you? Who'd you like?
I liked Xander just because Xander was on the bottom for so long, and watching him continue to survive and make ends meet. A lot of that's too like helping his alliance as long as he could, using the idol, snuffing out Liana's knowledge is power advantage successfully was awesome. So I liked a lot of that, and I was rooting for Xander to win at the end, and he blew it on his own choices, which we can get into in a second. But I still
Mhm.
liked him quite a bit. But I think honestly, like everyone in the merge was really likable. I actually
Yeah.
would have loved Nasir to be around a little longer. He was a great character, you know. And Danny, even though Danny's a little softer spoken and chill, still pretty cool as well. Like I liked everyone. And Deshaun, I mean, maybe he's not super likable, but he's so erratic that he's great for the game, great for the show.
Yeah, I agree. This is probably one of my favorite final eights they've ever had. I was just, or even final 11s. Tiffany maybe being the exception, and Heather too. I guess I didn't really like Heather all that
Yeah.
much. I kind of saw them as nothings, and no offense to them, I don't know them as
Well,
people.
Heather's barely on the show for the first like 10 episodes, to be honest.
Yeah, what do you make of that?
Unless there's behind the scene things that have nothing's been confirmed as far as I know, but maybe she just wasn't that interesting. If you don't have
Yeah,
good confessionals, they're not going to show them. Also, she was on the winning tribe, so the blue team they didn't get a whole lot. Like even Erica's
true.
not on a lot of the first half of the show, and honestly, I feel like they should have tried to engineer her being on the show a little bit more, because you have so much Shan fireworks in the first half. I'm sure you could have snuck in a little more Erica just to make her more of a presence. You know,
Yeah,
I
no,
mean, think
I
about
agree.
it. Remember, like everyone's like, "Oh, Erica, she's shady." You can't trust Erica. It's like, I mean, you guys have these opinions that we don't
Aren't seeing.
also have because we haven't seen any of this,
Yep.
you know. But it was
um,
a really good cast.
yeah, it was a really good cast, most diverse cast that they've ever had, and I hope they continue that because I do think the alliance between Deshaun, Danny, Liana, and Shan before it broke apart was actually a really interesting aspect, and seeing that social aspect of the game of them as black players on the show wanting to band together and have a all black final four before that was kind of ruined. I thought was really fascinating, and I thought it led to one of the best moments of the season when um, Deshaun and Danny, Liana, and Shan talked about the weight of representing their community on the show. I thought
Mm-hmm.
that was really well done. Although I will say, when Jeff kicked it to Heather to give her opinion, I was
Oh,
like ready for something really bad to happen. So I'm glad it didn't go
yes.
that way. Um, Going back to the players we liked, I think Ricard and Shan were by far the favorites to me, and I also think that they're the ones that we will definitely see coming back. If Ricard will want to come back, which I think he will, and
Mm-hmm.
I think they were the strongest players. Xander, I really liked a lot. Also met Xander in person, was a bit starstruck. This was like right after the first episode, and I was like, I saw him in an airport, and I was like, were you on Survivor? He was actually wearing the Survivor like was it like cap or
Buff. Yeah.
buff? Yeah,
He's asking for it.
he was, and he like definitely wanted me to talk to him, but I was like in such like a rush to get through the airport, and also like still like starstruck and taken aback by the fact I was like seeing someone I just watched on TV last night. I like couldn't even like talk to him. So I feel
Yeah.
bad. Xander, if you're watching this, give us a follow and hit me up on Twitter at Nostalgia Pod. But yeah, no, I like Xander a lot too. I was rooting for him. I do think he blew it. We'll get
Yeah.
into
So
that.
how do you blow it? What do you do?
Well, so
Because he fucking blew it, dude.
yeah. So he like definitely was a very smart player, but he became a little too cute at the end, which is he was evaluating the narrative of people in the final three and what it was going to be, and he felt like if Erica, who had made some moves and was on exile, which led him to believe that she was able to make fire and would definitely win a fire challenge if someone was up against her. If she was to win fire, that she would be a shoe in to win, which she was already next to him. So not just putting it to fire and taking a chance doesn't make any sense. But he actually, I don't think, saw her case, which is really interesting because
Yeah.
he like I think the person to bring would have been Heather for sure.
Obviously.
Heather did nothing, had no power in the game.
Heather's an automatic vote for Erica as well. Just do the math of that. At least if that's something.
Good point. And so Deshaun showing you that he can't make fire. Erica then showing you that she can't make fire. He could have taken it into his own hands, which I thought he was gonna do, and say, I'm gonna give my immunity to, I don't know, Heather or Deshaun, and then take out whoever is up for fire, because he definitely would have won last night. That would have been a really ballsy move that I think could have helped him. But
that's ballsy.
I don't know. Did you feel like in real time he was fumbling the bag?
I did. I started thinking he was overthinking it.
Yeah.
But then when they showed Erica like not being good at fire, I was like, she is sandbagging. Like, there's no way, Yeah. But yeah, I don't think how you couldn't take Heather with you, because you just have to take the weakest person. And it's like, no matter whether you believe it or not, like, you just take someone next to you who's not going to get votes, because I mean, you don't want like three people up there that could get votes, right? Like, that doesn't help you either. So just hope that the threat loses. I don't know. It's out of your hands, except for the one piece you can do, which is take Heather, and he didn't do it.
Yeah, I also feel like he didn't necessarily make his case so well in front of the jury.
True, yeah. Liana stumped the shit out of him with that one question, and he like really stuttered on that. It's like,
yeah,
he didn't get a single vote,
Yeah, which is I don't think is fair that Deshaun got a vote over him. I don't think Deshaun played the game better than Xander necessarily, but I thought Nasir actually made his best social game case, which I was like, you should not need someone on the jury to be making the best case
Nasir
for why
didn't vote for him though.
I know. But yeah, also Xander in the tribal before the final one seemed to try to, I don't know, call out what he was perceiving from the jury and how he felt like they were seeing things, which I actually think also turned some of them against him.
Yeah, it's risky.
It is. So I think he got a little bit like you said, a little too cute, overthought things, and he'll be back for sure. I mean, he's like 20 years old, 21 years old, something like that. So we'll be seeing him again for sure. But
yeah, Survivor 42 is coming out March 9th, 2022. So you figure 43 is in 2022, 44, 45. So maybe at the end of 2023 or beginning of 2024, they could do a all-star season based off of, or half and half with some returners, like it will only be a few more years before they might start thinking about it, given their history of doing seasons with returning players. So yeah, I think, as you said, Ricard, Shan, Xander, I think they're the top choices. But again, there's a strong cast, so I wouldn't be surprised to see all other kinds of people. Like I mentioned, Sydney. Like there's a lot of potential here. So
yeah, I could even
job on
see
the casting director.
Yeah, I could even see like a second chance thing where someone like what was his name? Was it DJ or
JD?
JD, backwards. Where JD gets brought back, because he seemed to be like a really favorite in the season. Although I wasn't that big of a fan of his, honestly. But I really like the season a lot, especially given that it was made during COVID. I thought it was really interesting, the changes, and looking forward to how they tweak it and refine it moving forward. So Survivor, if you're not watching, I think you should. And if you watched all the way to the end and you haven't watched, I give you a lot of credit for sticking through this as well. We're going to be dropping our best of TV coming up here soon, so stay tuned for that. And check us out at Nowstalgia Pod on Twitter and SoundCloud.com/NowstalgiaPod.